Hi, good morning and good afternoon. I am Craig Schinn, co-founder of Predictable, and we are here today to talk about how to overcome blockers to predictive AI. Thank you all for attending. We have a team monitoring the chat for comments that come in, and hopefully I'll be able to address these as we proceed. If you're following live on LinkedIn, please add comments there, and they will be received backstage here at Predictable. So first, I will say that we speak to a lot of brands across our predictive analytics business, but also our consulting business. And brands want to adopt AI and ML at scale. And across functions within those brands, we see this report from McKinsey that brands are reporting cost decreases and they're reporting revenue increases when they think about how AI and machine learning can help their departments. But yet, as organizations, we continue to struggle to adopt AI and ML at scale across multiple functions of the business. This is a surprising insight from McKinsey, the last published version of McKinsey's AI report, where we haven't seen great an increased adoption of corporate AI across departments. And as much as we've adopted AI in our personal lives, we see huge opportunities to increase AI adoption at the brands that we work with. Now, it's worth asking ourselves, why are we not seeing progress across brands? And IBM does a global AI adoption index. And they listed a number of top barriers, from limited skill sets. That's certainly a problem that we see at organizations. We see issues around data complexity, so people don't think that their data is ready. Certainly ethical concerns that come up with how AI can be used. We see that more in regulated industries than we do unregulated industries, but certainly a concern. And kind of related to the AI skill set and the data complexity comes projects are too difficult to integrate and scale, which I think is really a function of the first two. So as an industry, we have a good sense for what the blockers are. Now, I'm going to, in this session, give you a little bit about how to prepare your organization. I'm going to give you a little bit about data readiness. But first, I do want to tell you about a brand that we've worked with who, despite all the obstacles listed on the prior page, lack of data readiness, not having the team in place, no sophisticated marketing technology that had its customer data piped in. Title IX, a very popular women's sportswear brand, did a lot of things right to get to AI adoption, and specifically predictive AI in their marketing. They had all the obstacles in place. They didn't have a team with AI skill sets. They didn't have a modern data warehouse. They didn't have a customer data platform with these sort of capabilities in it. But what they did have is alignment of their team to say, we want to try using AI in our marketing. They created a test plan. They went and said, well, we want to test this across 5 different use cases, across Meta, Google Ads. We want to try this in our email. And there was a few different tactics that were associated with each. They had an agency who was aligned to deliver on that use case plan. And they allocated a small test budget for a very, very targeted use case. And at the end of their trial, what they saw was a projected 15x ROI on very specific predictive AI features. So we're going to talk a little bit about how they overcame those obstacles, how we saw their organization prepared. And I hope you walk away thinking about it when you encounter obstacles to adopting AI or predictive AI inside of your marketing, tools and tricks that you might be able to leverage. So here are the things that we're going to cover. First, we're going to talk about how to get your organization ready. We're going to touch on how to get your data ready. We're going to talk to you about measurement plans. We're going to give you a few examples. And then again, where I hope to spend about 10 minutes or more in today's short session is overcoming those obstacles. So first thing first, your organization has to be ready to try this. Now, there's a few tricks for this. First, I would encourage you, start really simple. Have a use case roadmap. Think about how executable each use case is. Think about the projected impact it would have. And make sure your team has the ability to actually execute that. It gets down to a very tactical level when you're thinking about adopting predictive AI in your marketing. Ensure that you have that plan in place. This is always a best practice, but it's often overlooked. Second, make sure that you can actually measure things that the business cares about. This is often overlooked. Sadly, I've seen tests where an organization goes in, we see lift from a predictive AI application. And what has been unspecified is how much lift is necessary in order to say, yes, go. And I've seen 30% plus lifts get overlooked because the team hasn't necessarily agreed on the measurement methodology, what the success criteria are. So have those success criteria and make sure your team can actually go and measure against it. And finally, think about what buy-in looks like from your stakeholders. In complex AI ML applications, we see a need for a cross-functional team, from product owner, analytics and measurement. Your agencies need to be bought in. There might be site personalization. There may be some data engineering needs, and certainly some data science monitoring of third-party applications, or heavy data science involvement when a client is building proprietary data science. So think about what that stakeholder map looks like and ensure that all the stakeholders are ready to say, yes, go, this is important to me, I can support this when you think about your predictive AI testing efforts. Next, I want to spend a moment talking about getting your data ready. And we won't go deep into this because the devil is in the details when it comes to data feeding predictive algorithms. But first, you need to consider what you're predicting, right? We're not going to get into specifics around data science algorithms, but in the machine learning field, around well time-tested algorithms that fall broadly into the camp of artificial intelligence, but where the experts can help to determine, well, what am I trying to predict, right? I'm trying to predict churn. I'm trying to predict propensity to buy. Those are classification algorithms. There are experts that can help, based on that business problem that you're trying to solve, apply the right machine learning techniques. Second, you got to think about what data size is required. You need to have a valid sample size in order to have reliable predictions. It doesn't have to be gigantic. I've seen clients launch very successful machine learning applications and AI applications with only thousands of observations, or 1,000 observations of the targeted criteria that you're trying to predict. And this is maybe an obvious one, but one I've perhaps seen overlooked. You have to have a good sense for what the predicted action is in the actual data set. So if you're looking to predict purchases, you need purchases at an event level in the data set. We can't just know this person purchased at a point in time. We want a actual event level representation of all purchases in that specific example. Finally, and this is so important when we think about the data and how this test manifests, is when you're getting started, you have to make the use cases really, really simple. When we do this at Predictable, we think about very obviously named audiences, such as this is your acquisition seed audience. These are your engaged prospects. These are priority win backs that you can go after. So when you're thinking about a predictive AI adoption in your organization, think about how is this going to work? I'm strategizing this test at one level, but people at an agency, my acquisition marketers, my email marketing manager have to go and execute this. So make it really easy for them. Make the audience, that you're targeting, the segment that you're going after, very, very obvious. And then again, have that mapped against some business outcome, some measurable business outcome with clear success criteria to the test. So let's talk a little bit more about that test and measurement. So there is so much to getting these tests right. You want to make sure everyone is speaking the exact same language about the metrics that we're measuring. I've seen clients where CPA has more than one meaning, where there might be other terms that get at a cost per acquisition. Make sure that there's clear alignment on the metrics and definitions of success, and have that measurement framework. Again, success criteria up front are so, so important as we get into testing predictive AI. When you think about designing your test, have a hypothesis. Think about a test versus a control. In many cases, we've seen clients have a clear test and control, have it go across channels, and then have a way to tie that into your site analytics, your back-end data. Make sure that everyone is clear on those success criteria. Have a picture that everyone can align on of what test is, what control is, and then expectations around when things will be measured and when results will become clear. I'll give you an example of one brand who we worked with who did one of the cleanest tests of predictive audiences that I've seen a client execute. In this case, the brand was a financial services institution. They wanted to understand, how did predictive AI drive starts of loan applications and completions of loan applications. They had a business as usual segment that they had been going after of existing customers, where it was a known population. They divided that audience into two. And then they said, well, we have these AI-driven segments that we're going to orchestrate a cross-channel journey across email, site personalization, ads. Then they had this other segment that was mutually exclusive that only received their business as usual messaging. When they looked at the results, and they had crystal clear results reporting with a mutually exclusive audiences, it was all mapped to Google Analytics. What they saw was a 3x increase in starts and roughly a 4 to 5x increase in completes of that. A 6x increase in starts, and then roughly an 8x increase in completes for that mortgage application. So hugely successful results. This was one where AI rolled out more broadly. They had the ability to understand what specifically worked, what didn't. They could look at analytics in their Facebook account. They could look at analytics in Google Ads, and of course, Google Analytics. So when you do it right, when you have the clear segmentation, the success criteria, the clear use case defined prior to that, you can see great results like this client did. These aren't necessarily limited to the examples that I've seen. We've seen a number of brands see huge lifts in incremental revenue in the first month. We've seen a large increase in second purchase, a lift in second purchases when data can be leveraged across email, addressable media. We've seen huge improvements in advertising in Meta and Google Ads by simple things like suppressing people who are unlikely to purchase from remarketing funnels to seeding better lookalike audiences. And of course, to repeat the example that we saw with Title IX and the 15x ROI that they achieved. But along the way, you are likely to encounter obstacles. And I want to give you some of the tricks that these brands and we at Predictable have helped brands to use to overcome the obstacles and the objections that come up when we think about how to leverage predictive AI in your marketing experiences. So the first objection is AI is too risky. In many cases, a legal team may see this or a privacy team may see this and react to the letters AI. AI does face more scrutiny than ML because AI as a practice has kind of been co-opted by a lot of what's happening in generative AI, which is promising and incredible and offers incredible efficiency gains in a wealth of industries, but has a lot of uncertainty around data sharing, um, accuracy, understandability of the information that comes out or the assets that come out from generative AI. Whereas machine learning has been around for a long time. So it's really well tested. It's borne the test of time for decades in direct mail, email, ads, a number of places. So when an AI initiative gets held up because AI is too risky, acknowledge that for generative AI, right? But highlight the benefits of where the machine learning field within artificial intelligence can actually really give a much better tool to be able to target your key customer segments. The next objection that we commonly hear is we are not ready for AI. So in this case, oftentimes an objector is thinking about extremely complex ML scenarios. I don't think it's often well understood how easy it has become to develop machine learning models. There are tons of tools to make it easy to do bad models, but these same tools with experts guiding can actually build great models very, very quickly. In the Title IX example, again, they did not have a data set that was ready. We were able to assemble one and get use cases live inside of 1 week, and we saw some of the results. So overall, it was a 15x ROI on that modest investment that they made. If we emphasize as business leaders the ease of deployment and de-risk a test, but with that testing plan and those success criteria, it goes a long way toward getting your organization ready to overcome those adoption obstacles. And this one is a very common one. For objection 3 is often we need to own AI efforts. The brands have hired personnel to do this, or they have policies where someone senior inside of an organization wants to be the owner of AI intelligence. But commonly and frustratingly, this is oftentimes coupled with a lack of resourcing to actually support the marketing use case. These two almost go hand in hand, where we need to own it and we haven't been resourced to do it very quickly. So in this case, this is a hard obstacle to overcome when there's entrenched ownership, but a business owner on the marketing side or the data analytics side can establish stop gaps until a priority solution is available. In many cases, the opportunity cost of not having this capability can be made clear with a de-risk test, like we talked about on the prior slide. So think about the opportunity cost of not having the tools that the marketing team needs. Treat third-party solutions or rapidly developed POCs as a stopgap until the organization can better support enterprise data science efforts. But that opportunity cost is material for many brands, and this is a good tactic to overcome that specific objection. Objection 4 is that our data isn't in a good place. This is a data readiness objection, right? We saw that in IBM's slide at the start of this presentation. Now, I have been broadly in the data analytics, marketing technology, media, CDP, and predictive analytics space for 25 years of the last 25 years. And I've never heard a brand say, our data is in a great place. Oh, we finally got it, and this is our final state. Data is an ever-evolving thing in organizations. We add new channels, new tools. Our technologies switch out under our stack. So data is always going to be evolving, and waiting until it's in that perfect and ideal space, that moment isn't going to come. We're going to continue to evolve. Instead, what we need to be thinking on is not all our data isn't perfect. It's, do we have the right data in order to do predictions that actually matter to our marketing activations? And that data is actually usually in a pretty good place. For the data that Title IX used, they knew their customers' email addresses. They had reliable email marketing data from their ESP as to who was sent, who opened, who clicked, who unsubscribed from messaging. And they had reliable transaction history data across multiple e-commerce technologies. Many brands don't have web data in their data warehouse. If you do, great. It is additive to models, but we've seen huge lift just from a customer identifier, email engagement data, and other messaging engagement data and transaction history. And that data is typically very high quality. It comes from third parties who've invested a lot of resources in creating great hygiene to that data. And that can be leveraged very, very effectively for predictive AI. So when we think about how to get started, it's not to think about your total enterprise data. It's what's the data that matters? What's the 101 level data that helps me move really, really quickly and helps us get the common use cases stood up very, very rapidly. Objection 5 is kind of related to the generative AI confusion that has introduced into the field. But commonly, a legal or privacy team may have concerns about where data is shared, and that is understandable. We have both here in the United States as well as globally, a patchwork of regulation that is governing how we use our data. Furthermore, individual brands may have policies that complicate the usage of that data. A big key is that data doesn't need to be persisted outside of systems that a client owns to get value from machine learning. There are solutions such as Predictable that are composable in nature, where the scoring is brought to the data rather than the data brought to the scoring. There are tremendous tools inside the cloud providers. Notably, we work with Google Cloud, and Google Cloud has tons of tools that score right where your data is, where it's already resident. And typically, there's not value in getting a lot of data from second or third parties. That is incremental beyond the data that I mentioned in the prior slide, where we talked about email engagement and transactions. So, these external models, when we think about where our data resides, it's not training external models. The clouds keep your data where it is, and there are solutions that exist that can let the scoring application be brought to your data versus your data exported. So it's important to be clear and get that buy-in with the legal and privacy team very, very early. So those are the 5 most common objections that we see in a very rapid overview of how to get your organization ready, how to think about the test. And I appreciate your attention during today's live event. Thank you so much.